Hey guys, Igor here. In today's video, we're using Procreate to draw with the symmetry tool and create a butterfly similar to this. It's going to be a step-by-step painting, so let's get into it, shall we? Alright, so let's begin with creating a new canvas. I'm going to choose square as the ratio so that if I choose to upload it to Instagram, I don't have to crop. And here we have our blank canvas. Hit the little wrench icon, enable drawing guides, and edit drawing guide. Be sure to turn on symmetry here. Along the bottom we have horizontal, vertical, quadrant, and radial options for the different symmetry, but what we're going to want is just the plain old vertical one. Hit done. Under the brush I have selected an HB pencil, and that's what I'm going to be using to sketch out the body of our butterfly. So the first things first is you want to start with the head. And the shape is not as important as one might think, unless you're going for a photorealistic butterfly. I drew this kind of warped oval. Keep in mind, you only need to draw half. For the middle section, the middle body, we're going to do another oval-like shape. And finally, end that off with, let's actually narrow the little tail section down a bit. The thorax, or whatever it's called, feels like the butterfly might be a little too large. So to shrink it, click the little arrow, make sure magnetics is on, and then just pinch with 2 fingers so that it doesn't move left or right. I want to go ahead and shrink the butterfly. I was a little bit off-centered. There. Giving me enough room. I'm going to create a new layer. Turn on drawing assist, and from there, make sure I'm not leaning my pencil so we don't get that wide stroke. From there, I'm going to span the wings out, bring them down. This will be the bigger portion of the wing. Give it the area on the back where it connects. And then below that, we have the smaller wing. We'll give them little tails. And have this wing resting on the underside of the larger wing. Alright. Now going back to our first layer, I'm going to add some eyes to our butterfly, and they'll be almost like lemon-shaped wedges on the outside of the head. Now for the antennas, there's 2 ways to do this. We can go up, or we can bring the antennas back and loop them. I kind of like how the downward position looks, but in order to do that, we're going to need to put it on a separate layer. And before we do that, let's go ahead and erase some of these body lines that are being obstructed by the wing either way. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate the wing layer to get some darker lines in there and merge them together. I will go over this sketch with a pen liner to make it a lot cleaner of a stroke. But first, let's get all of the different elements in place. Going back to the body layer, I'm going to create a couple of lines going across the thorax, is I guess what we'll be calling it. That might be wrong. Sorry, bug experts out there. And the pattern of the wings itself, we will leave for a separate layer, and that'll be fun to do. So moving on to cleaning up the wings, I want this bottom area to be a little bit more bulbous. And if you don't like the little tails, guess what? You can just do that and remove them. So do what you will with the design of this butterfly. So the next step will be to create a new layer, turn on drawing assist, and this time let's change to an inking brush. let's try a couple of these. I think the dry ink looks really nice. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Before I start drawing, I'm going to go back to the wing layer and lower its opacity down to about 30%. Same with the body. 27% on that one. That's fine. Alright, and now if I want to be more precise, I can zoom in. Remember, I'm only doing half of the drawing, and the other half is done by the symmetry. You got to make sure you turn on that drawing assist. So here we go. Carefully recreating the drawing with a clean sketch. I want to fill in a couple of these little gaps that show up from using a dry ink. Even though it gives us this nice textured look, you want to avoid gaps within your drawing because it'll make filling in with colors a little bit more difficult. I don't like how the bottom turned out there, so just going to redo this stroke. Still following that line for the most part. What I want to do is have this little part of the wing flow out a little nicer, so you can see I'm not 100% sticking to the sketch, but that's fine because it won't be visible anyways in the end product. There we have the neck. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Draw the bottom of the head. And for the eyes, I actually want to make the eyes pop out just a little. This will give it somewhat a cartoony look, but I like that style. It leaves a lot of room for creativity. It's not limiting yourself to a super realistic shape or look. Again, here we're only doing half, and then the other half is being mirrored and drawn in for us. And I'm just adding a couple of lines to the bottom of the butterfly. So the next step will be to grab your color and drag it into some of the empty areas like the eyes, and as you can see, it fills it in. Let's go ahead and get rid of the lower layers, the sketch layer. And now we can drop in some color or do the wing design. I say we do the wing design, and here you can basically go wild. So for the wing, I'm going to do a couple of oval shapes that interlay near one another. You can have solid wings with, a color gradient. That would look really nice if you have them on a separate layer. You can just alpha lock it and paint on it without worrying about any of the color running off and ruining the painting. But yeah, like I said, just ovals for this design. You could do dots, you could do squares. You can even make some sort of face. And now the bottom. So keep in mind that the top wing, as you can see right here, is on top of the wings just below that. That means if you have a design coming out of the bottom wing, sometimes it'll be clipped by the top wing. So don't be afraid to show that. Lean the camera a little bit. Sometimes getting a good stroke is not that easy from angles that you're not used to drawing from. Alright, so here we have our butterfly. The next step is obviously to color it. So for color, there are a couple things you can do. This is obviously very open to customizing and making your own. Again, you can grab this color that you've selected and just drag and drop it into different areas of the butterfly and it'll color it in. I'm going to go for a kind of turquoise for the wings and then sort of swampy green for the body. This is just the flat colors. We are not adding any highlights or shadows yet, but we will get to that. And I'm going to keep the line art for the simplicity of, the viewers, and it'll look nice, I think. Orange works. I like orange. Let's try that. So for the design that I did, I'm going to incorporate a couple of different colors into the wings. So I'm going to splash the orange around a few of these areas. Then I'm going to go for a more red color. Again, these are flats. They will be affected by highlights and shadows. So keep that in mind. We just want some base colors. Something more red. Whoops. We only have a few different colors remaining. So let's grab one more. I think we'll go almost full red. Fill in the remaining spots. It looks very much like a fall design. I'm okay with that. Now the next thing to do is to go ahead and draw in the antennas that we're missing. So let's create a new layer. Remember to turn on drawing assist. I want to say almost cliche, but not too bad. Let me get an angle that I like. Yeah, let's keep that. Why not? It kind of balances, we have the little wing portions, winglets at the bottom here. So having antennas up top balances that out. Keeping them on a separate layer is pretty important, and you'll see why. So let's go back to our assisted layer here, layer 3, as it's named. We're going to alpha lock it by swiping with 2 fingers to the right. Now you see a checkered pattern appeared behind it. We are going to create a new layer, tap on the butterfly again, hit select. So now you see the butterfly itself has lines around it. Go to the layer above, turn on drawing assist, and this is the layer that we're going to be adding highlights and shadows with. Or, in this case, just shadows and then highlights on a different layer, very similar to this. I actually want to use a color when having hard light selected. If we use red, as you can see, the orange is having this nice coat. So the red, or any color that you select, it plays differently in the hard light setting than, say, this black. See, the black doesn't have this soft red shadow on top of the orange here. So if you're using hard light, keep in mind that having some color selected can make a big difference on the effect that your painting is having. So I'm basically painting the areas near the wings, stuff that the wings would overlap to create shadow. And you can see here along the wings and along the body is where I chose to do that. Now the next step would be to grab an eraser and undo some of the shadows that we've placed. I wouldn't go too large on the eraser here. And along the bottom of the wing, where there would be no shade, we can go ahead and erase. As well as the top of the wing here, a little bit above the head. Actually, let's undo that. Let me show you something cool. If we make the size of the eraser very small, we can make it seem like the eyes are popping out by giving them a little bit of a lighter edge. Using this smaller brush, we can also carve out some of that shading that we've added to places where we didn't want it because we were using a larger brush. And now, erasing a little bit of these areas on the thorax. And now we can move on to the next step, which will be the highlights. I will say I actually do want a little bit of shadow on the inside of these larger wings because they were just too flat. It didn't look like they were connected to anything. So I like adding a little bit of those shadows. And now let's create a new layer. We still have the butterfly layer selected because you can see those transparent lines. So when we're drawing in this colored layer, we are not going outside the bounds of the selection. So let's see if we can use color dodge. So let's see if we can select another color, something light preferably, and use color dodge to get our highlights, our desired look. So overdoing it will have too much washed out white. So you want a soft touch on most of these areas and along the head. As you can see, because the antennas are on a separate layer, we're not worried about highlighting or darkening them. So the next step should be to add a little bit of personal highlights. So grab a light color. We can go back to our sketch. And because our layer is no longer assisted, as you can see I didn't do it this time, it's only drawing on one side. And I want that to happen because I don't want the reflection to be mirrored. We don't have two light sources, we have one light source, which I imagine is coming from this left direction. Something like that. And that's how you create a very simple yet elegant butterfly. Now if you want, you can collapse all these layers together. And if you wanted to go a step further, you now have this base layer to also draw on top of. So if you wanted, let's say, some extreme highlights and shadows, something that you can play around with, you have the option to go in and add that. See if we want to make like the eyes more reflective and whatnot. All of that is doable. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed this little tutorial. I can definitely do more if this is something you're interested in seeing. Maybe we'll go more complex on the next one. So be sure to leave me some comments down below on what you'd like to see. And I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching and have a good day.